I'm Welton Gaddy. Welcome to State of Belief, continuing coverage of the 2020 Democratic National Convention across America. Most Americans don't even know it, but the Democratic Party recognizes a virtual 51st state. It's called Democrats Abroad and encompasses eligible U.S. voters around the globe. Anya Leonhard is active in Democrats Abroad, Saxony in Germany, a medical student at Leipzig University. Anya is the daughter of first generation immigrants and was raised in a multicultural German Chinese Unitarian Universalist household. Anya is also a delegate to the 2020 Democratic National Convention. Thank you, Anya, for taking time to be with us today.
Thanks for having me.
How big is the membership of Democrats Abroad? Do you know?
So I actually didn't know until a few hours ago, and I asked our international chair, and she said it's okay if we don't know. It's 200K, but the number we like to focus on is actually the 6 million Americans living abroad who are eligible to vote. So while only 200K of those are registered with Democrats Abroad, 6 million are eligible to vote in the United States.
And so say again, how many delegates are assigned to this group?
So we have 24 delegates. We have 13 pledged delegates. So those are delegates pledged to a candidate. We have 4 pledged to Vice President Biden and 9 pledged to Senator Bernie Sanders, who won our primary with about 60% of the vote. And the other delegates are either campaign appointed delegates for special committees or automatic delegates who are members of the DNC, who each have half a vote. So we have 8 DNC members with half a vote each.
So you are a pledged delegate. What's that mean?
So I'm a pledged delegate, which means that I ran to represent a specific candidate at the convention. So I ran to represent the Sanders campaign at the convention. And that basically means that I'm pledged to vote for him. Whether that pledge is legally enforced depends on the state. I believe you have to pay a fine in some states. I don't actually know how that is for Democrats Abroad, but it's expected that you vote for your candidate during the convention and also to represent your state. So in this case, Democrats Abroad, the Democrats Abroad platform, and generally the voters of Democrats Abroad who voted for my particular candidate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So the way you describe that, is that about challenging the BidenHarris ticket or more about making sure the most progressive platform possible comes out of the convention?
I would say it's about making sure that we amplify progressive voices. What's particularly important to me is to emphasize that progressive views are still represented by this party. It's not inherently about challenging the Biden-Harris ticket. Many progressives are mobilizing behind Biden-Harris. I mean, Senator Sanders' speech last night, he was very clear about our need to unify as a party. But I think we always have to differentiate between unity and having the same opinion. I think it's really great that our party is so diverse, that it represents so many different perspectives and interests. And I think that we honor this diversity by having conversations, having discussions about things that are important to us.
So tell me, I know we're only the second day in, but how is it going for you? What are your feelings? What is it, a surprise or is it exciting or what is it?
So my feeling is mainly actually tired because due to the time difference, everything here is night. So I'm actually in London right now with the other UK delegates. And last night we were just, on the couch watching this online. It was midnight, 1 a.m. So that's, of course, really interesting, just witnessing all of this. Like, it's a historic moment, but I'm just sitting, in someone's home on a couch eating Chinese food. But it's so important. So that's always I mean, that's just like a weird dissonance, when you're witnessing this online convention. And when I got elected, of course, it was kind of obvious that it wouldn't be in person, but everyone's like, oh, what if COVID gets like magically better and then we can go to Milwaukee and have fun, so that's really interesting. But I still think that many of the speeches and many of the moments of last night, some of which I had to watch this morning, to be honest, because I did fall asleep at points, but some of them are still very moving, and I think definitely show like what the narrative of the party will be going forward. I mean, there's a lot of talk about, specifically defeating Trump, but there's also a lot of talk about what our vision is for the United States going forward that I thought was very powerful.
Yes, I agree. There is so much enthusiasm among Sanders supporters. I think we're all aware of that. What's your feeling about if that can be translated to Joe Biden as a candidate?
I think that it can be translated to Joe Biden as a candidate by focusing on, like long-term reform of the structures that even led to Trump in the first place. I think what frustrates many progressives and many Sanders supporters is when people are like, okay, well, as long as we get a Democrat in the White House, our fight is over. Because for many progressives, the fight begins with a Democrat in the White House. But I think in order to even start that process of, sustainable reform, we have to put the pieces into place. And I think that it's motivating for many progressives to think about, look, we cannot do work with Trump in the White House. We can do work with a Democrat in the White House. We can do work with a Supreme Court that does not have a conservative majority. We can do work with good secretaries of education, of state. These are just kind of things that we have to have in order to keep pushing for our progressive movement. Yeah. And yeah.
Well, I know this is your first time participating in this way, and I know you're tired, but I would love to hear what you've learned about politics and patriotism from this process, even as the country is in such unprecedented turmoil right now.
Well, I definitely learned a lot about myself and how I view American politics in relation to myself. I think that before I ran as a delegate, I wasn't even aware of how much I had detached from an actively American identity. In Germany, I'm often racialized as ethnically ambiguous. I mean, I'm half Chinese, so people never really believe me when I say I'm American. For them, American means, white. And due to the frustration I was feeling at the Trump administration, it was easy for me to just say, I'm not really American. I just kind of block that part out of myself. But during my fight during my campaign to be elected as a delegate, and just talking to all of these people who live so far away and care so much, I think I really started to conceptualize patriotism as something you can actively reclaim. It's something you participate in. It's an act of, trying to do what you think is right and what's best for your country. Even if you don't live there, I think there's something very powerful about the work of Democrats abroad, because I think it's so deeply empathetic. A lot of people have been abroad. Our chair has been abroad for 21 years. So of course you can say, I live in a country where I can go to the doctor without having to worry about a medical bill. I live in a country where my kids can go to university for free. But I see people in my home and maybe family or loved ones I left behind, and I'm still going to do this work, and I'm going to devote so much time to it to fight for them instead. So I think that was really inspiring to me to just, I think it's like the opposite of disillusionment, the work of Democrats abroad. So that was really inspiring to me just in my personal work.
Thank you. Give me one other thing you really want us to know.
I really want everyone to know that if you are an American citizen living abroad and you are over the age of 18, you are eligible to vote. You can go to votefromabroad.org, that's .org, to request your ballot now or register to vote if you haven't. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anya Leonhard is active in Democrats Abroad, Saxony in Germany, and a pledged Bernie Sanders delegate. She spoke to us from London. Look for more of our convention coverage, including interviews with leaders, activists, and delegates, all week long at stateofbelief.com. I'm Welton Gaddy. Thanks for watching.